Hey, Kevin Coy here from A Self-Reliant Life, and I just wanted to do a video about how to save some money on your grocery bill. And so I want to kind of let you in on a little secret. I eat steak for less than $3 a pound, and I'm going to show you how you can get away with that. And it's a good quality steak. We're not talking about something you got to chew all night. This is actually a really nice steak, and it's just one example of the type of steak you can have for a very reasonable price. And I was a professional meat cutter for a number of years, ran a meat shop for a grocery chain, and I also was a farm butcher, and I worked in the restaurant industry for a number of years. So I learned meat cutting and working with different cuts and so forth. And so I was going to just show you what we're doing here. So what I've got right here is a cryo pack, and this is how the meat shops and the restaurants get their meat. And you can buy this, it's basically wholesale cost, but there are shops that are open to the public that will sell you this. You can just walk right in and buy this if you want to, and they've got a bunch of different kinds. It's just one particular type of meat. It's beef, and it's called tri-tip. And tri-tip is a really good cut of steak, and it's similar to top sirloin. It's got a good flavor to it. It's got good marbling, and I think it's got a really good tenderness about it. And you can cut it up and use it in a number of different ways. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So what this is this would come in a box, and they have what they call cattle pack, and the boxes will weigh no more than 80 pounds. So there'll be probably maybe 4 of these in a box, because this is about a 22.5 pound bag right here. So there's probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 tri-tips, whole tri-tip roasts in here. And so I bought this for $2.75 a pound, and hamburger costs over $3 a pound in the store. So you're actually buying this cheaper than you can buy a hamburger. And so this was about $60 worth of meat right here. Now you might think, well, I'm not going to buy $60 worth of meat, or 20 pounds, 22 pounds worth of meat, and that's fine. If you want to split this with somebody, you could do that, you know, or maybe 2 or 3 people if you want to break up the cost a little bit and have this and maybe some other varieties of meat that you want to pick up, so that you don't have, you know, your entire refrigerator or freezer full of just one kind of meat. Although if you had to, that's not a bad cut of meat to have, you know, to eat every day, and I really enjoy these. We like eating these all the time. We barbecue them. So I'm going to cut this open, and I'm going to take one of these out. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to cut it up and show you how to do it. It's a boneless piece of meat, so you don't have to deal with any saws or anything like that. This is just using a knife. And this bag is, this meat's good for about 30 days in this bag. It's a real heavy-duty piece of plastic. It's cryo pack, and we would get these into the store or the restaurant, and they can sit in the refrigerator for quite a while in this bag like this, unopened. Once they open them, you need to use them within a few days, or freeze them, one of the two. So we would cut these up and put them out in the meat case, or use them in the restaurants, and caterers use them too. And so I'm just gonna, what I do is I like to cut up these into different types of steaks and roasts and so forth, and then we'll put them in Ziploc bags and freeze them, and other than what we're going to use immediately. And then you've got, you know, next month you go down, you buy a different piece of meat, and so you start building up a variety of cuts that you can have. So you've got, you know, maybe you want to do some pork chops, and then you want to do a roast, and then you want to do some steak, or you want to make some hamburger or whatever. So what I'm going to do is cut this open, and I'll show you what these look like. It's a really thick, heavy-duty plastic bag that they're sealed up in. And so I'm just going to take one of these out. And they're vacuum packed in there, so they're kind of tight. All right, there we go. So there's one tri-tip roast. So they got a nice fat cap on there. This is the meat underneath. And you notice there's a grain to this meat, and so I'm going to show you how to cut that so that you get a good tender cut. If you were to cut it this way, you'd get a long stringy piece of meat that you'd be spending the rest of the afternoon chewing. But you want to cut it against the grain this way, and so you just have to kind of identify that. So normally what we do is we'll start cutting off this point and cut back this way. Now you can just cook this as a whole roast too. A lot of guys like to barbecue these and smoke them on the grill. They take a while. You got a low heat and leave them on there for a few hours and they come out real nice. Or you can stick this in the oven, or you can put it in a crock pot, cook it all day, comes out nice and tender. And but what I'm going to do is make some steaks out of it. So I'm going to lay it up here on the cutting board. And you're going to wind up, if you cut several of these up, you're going to have some trim pieces, and you know, you can use those for cubes for, you know, stew meat or kebabs, or you can cut them thin and make stir fry or fajita meat out of them. So what you want to do is just get yourself a little bit of a face cut here. We're just going to take this little piece off, and we'll trim that up a little later. So now you can see it's a nice piece of meat. You can cut this as thick or thin as you like. It's personal preference. Typically, if you're looking at the store, you're going to be sitting there. You can cut them thin and make some quick steaks out of them. You can throw them in the frying pan, or you can cut them 3/4 to an inch thick and make some nice big steaks for the grill. And so I like to cut them about 3/4 of an inch. So I just come back 3/4 here and slice them open. So that's a nice looking, see the marbling in there, that's a good piece of meat. And you can trim this up a little bit if you like. This is not bad, you know. Most of the time when we're cutting, we try to keep about a 1/4 inch fat cap on there. Adds a lot of flavor. So there's one steak. And we'll just keep working our way back here. You get a little bit bigger steak when you get into the middle of this. There's a nice steak ready to go. Just real simple. It takes a couple of minutes to cut these up and have them processed into a nice group of steaks to put together. You know, and everybody can, if you like a bigger steak, you can take, you know, steak out of this middle here. If you want a smaller one, a little petite steak for somebody, you can cut these in half even. So those are real nice looking pieces of meat, see? Lots of flavor. Pretty tender. Cook up pretty quick on the grill. And just kind of working my way across this. Now you're going to come into a little bit thinner part here, and that's something we can process into some other cuts here, but those are nice looking steaks. Now see, I've got this little bit of a thin piece right here at the end. We'll just cut this off. I'm kind of cutting here in front of the camera, so you know, we're going to process that out. So now we got some little medallions here. We can cut these. Just don't cut your hand, keep your knife sharp. Now you can trim that off a little bit there if you don't like all that fat. Throw that off. And so we're getting right down here to the last couple of cuts. It's probably about a 5-pound roast. So we got nice, 2 little nice cuts there. We can trim up the fat on those. I'm kind of running out of room. And just cut that off. Get this out of here. So we got a nice little steak. And then we got this last one. Now, sometimes you can butterfly one of these over and make yourself a whole steak out of this. Let's see. We're just going to cut part of the way through. We can get it to stay up. And we can do that. And you got another nice steak there. We'll cut the fat down a little bit. There you go. A nice little petite steak. So all we need to do now is just decide how many steaks we want to freeze together so that we can take them out of the freezer and you know, if you got a bigger family, put more steaks in here. If it's just a couple of you, then just group them. I like to put them in these bags. They're thicker and they'll do pretty good in the freezer. You put all these smaller steaks together here if you like. And if you keep them a little separated like that, you can pop them out of there once they're frozen and not have to take everything out of the bag. You can just take a couple out if you like. And so just kind of squeeze the air out of them and zip them shut. You can take a marker and write the date on there that you put them in the freezer so you know how long they've been in there. And then we can do the same thing with these. I got 3 nice steaks right here. I think these are going on the grill tonight. So the leftovers over here, you got a little bit of meat and the fat. Probably toss. Most people don't use that unless you're going to throw that into the grinder for hamburger or something. But we got some nice meat here still. And this can be, you can peel that fat cap off of there if you like and get rid of it if you want to, so you don't have so much on there. Just pop that off and set that aside. Now we can take this and just, we could cube this up into for you know, stew or kebabs, or we can run it real thin here and use it for stir fry or fajita meat if you want to do that. And we can set that aside. Same thing with this one. And if you wanted to, you can, you know, if you had enough, if you're going to cut 2 or 3 of these up tonight, you'll wind up with several of these ends right here. And these make great little kebab pieces. You can just cut it right in half and use that for stew meat or kebab meat. So there you go. That's one tri-tip. Wind up with you know, half dozen steaks or so out of that. And again, there's about 5 or 6 of those in this bag, looks like. And so we can wind up with a, you know, a nice freezer full of really good eating steaks, real cheap, you know, under the price of hamburger. So sounds like a steal deal to me. And we'll do some more videos on some different cuts as we go here. We'll get some pork cuts and some other steak cuts, and we'll show you how to process those. So. Okay, so I wound up processing all of the 5 tri-tip roasts out into steaks and kebab meat and some stew meat and a little bit of stir fry meat. And you can see there's quite a bit here. There's 22.5 pounds of prime steak for $2.75 a pound. This is actually $7 a pound in the grocery store if you go down there, and it's more than that if you go to the restaurant and buy one. So it took me less than 10 minutes from the time I opened the bag till the time we sealed the last bag to process all this up. So it's very quick and easy with a nice sharp knife, and you know what you're doing. I showed you how to do it. Now you can have steak for less than the price of hamburger. Okay, here's the finished product. We went ahead and cooked up some of those steaks on the grill tonight. We got a nice set of baked red potatoes with a little bit of butter, some roasted Brussels sprouts, and a nice grilled tri-tip steak with a little bit of chive. Dig in, it looks good. See you on the next video.